Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Narc Free Formula. My name's Freedom. Thank you for joining me. In tonight's episode, I wanted to discuss greyrock, what it means, and how to do it like a boss. Tonight's episode was actually instigated by the recent challenges that have been going around on social media with the posting your first social media profile pic and your current profile pic. And I was looking back through some old photos of mine, and I found a photo. Well, it's actually in my license, which is terrible because I got it for 10 years. But it's on my license, and it was taken at a time where I was doing greyrock in my relationship. And anyhow, look, it brought up some really interesting emotions and feelings. I hadn't actually thought about that time for quite a while. And so I wanted to share that with you. And like I said, give you my kind of top tips, I suppose, for doing greyrock like a boss. So for me, at the time that I was doing greyrock in the relationship, was when I had been in the relationship for over a decade, was well and truly confused, abused, controlled, manipulated, but like most good narcs, ones that manage to keep people, in the narc cycle, there was a healthy dose of kind of intermittent reinforcement, where he would be, my soulmate, my Prince Charming, my everything again, to keep me hooked. And so quite literally, even up till the very day that I finally walked away, I was still in doubt as to whether or not he was my everything, or he was a psychopath. So basically, as the whole thing unfolded, probably about a year a year before it all finished, I had started reading up about psychopaths and sociopaths, and he knew this because I was talking to him about what I was reading. Big no. Do not ever do that. It just triggers, it just tells them that you're figuring it out. Anyhow, so I was starting to figure out some stuff, but as we all know, cognitive dissonance, there's two frames of thought, i.e. he's my soulmate, and the other one is, he's actually a highly manipulative sociopath. So I was fluctuating between those two trains of thought, but had been reading enough to know that the only way I was going to be able to kind of get out of that situation was by going greyrock. And so for those of you who don't know what greyrock is, it's basically, the term greyrock actually comes from, what a grey rock looks like. No one really thinks about grey rocks. No one really pays attention to grey rocks. So that was what I was doing at the time when my license photo was taken. I was actually withdrawing all my energy from him. And it's not an easy thing. This is the other thing, clearly. It's not an easy thing to do. It was a really, really hard thing for me to do, because part of my get out of my situation was to allow someone else to come into my space and to be his next victim. So the opportunity had arisen, and I could see that, this was my kind of way out, I suppose. And yet I still had moments of, feeling like, oh my God, what am I doing? This is my husband. We've been together for such a long time, and I love him and he loves me, and I can't let this happen. And, I had kind of these moments where I would not try and fight, but, I had moments where I'd still be in love with him. And as I said, even till the day I left, I was still in love. But I just kept thinking, if he's a sociopath, he will show me. If he's a sociopath, he will show me. And he did show me. He showed me really quickly, within days, you know, literally within days. The new victim was being driven around. There she was in my seat in the car, you know, like just like that, instant replacement. And so as much as that hurt, it was, you know, this kind of such a relief, because, you know, I realized that, yes, all of my intuition had been right. All the things that I had, you know, been thinking, maybe here's this, maybe this is what's going on, you know, but then I was having to deal with the fact that he was telling me completely, you know, the completely different story and reinforcing all of his lies and all of his bullshit. And so it's hard when you're being brainwashed. It's really hard when you've allowed someone kind of into your heart, mind, and, you know, psyche. It's hard to then to stop them having an impact on you. So he was still having an impact on me, and I was learning about psychopaths, realizing that he was one, and that, you know, it's not. I was even going through the thing at one stage thinking, well, you know, it's okay. He's just a psychopath, you know, to other people. He's not a psychopath to me. It doesn't work like that. You know, it's like being a little bit pregnant, you know. You're either pregnant or you're not. Or you're either a psychopath and you're not. And he is a psychopath and he was a psychopath. But, you know, your brain goes through all these kind of denials and bargaining states. But anyhow, let's backtrack to this grey rock. So, as I said, I knew that my window of opportunity had arisen. I knew that there were a couple of people that were on the scene that he was showing kind of an interest in, and who could possibly replace me. Not, you know, don't give a shit about his long-term plans, but just long enough for me to be able to get out was all I cared about. So there was a couple. And so the grey rock was me acting like a grey rock, pulling back all my energy from him, not spending time with him. And when we were together, you know, not giving him my energy, not, you know, laughing at his jokes, not being interested in what he had to say, you know, dressing down all the time, you know, not wanting to actually, you know, show any signs of, you know, being attracted or attractive, you know. But it was it was hard though, as I said, because, you know, then there was other times where I would forget that he was a psychopath and that I was trying to escape, and I'd get caught up again in his lies and the, you know, the love bombing bullshit, and, you know, we'd, you know, I don't know, have a great night in bed, and then all of a sudden I'd be thinking, oh no, everything's okay, we can work it through. But, you know, you can't work it through with them. And I just knew that, like, I just knew it. So I just had to keep putting one foot in front of the other, dimming my light right down, letting, like, these other people be so much more interesting. You know, just things like, I remember he had his own caravan, and I would be in the house and he would be in the caravan with all these other people, you know, including these ones that he was trying, you know, testing out to see if they were going to be my replacement. Now, the me who I really am would never let anyone just take my place like that. It just would never happen. You know, I would sort that shit out real quick. But I had to force myself to sit back and not, you know, not go down there, not hang around with him and them, and just let it all play out. And it was actually really, really hard. And I almost think that I deserve a medal of recognition for, you know, for letting it all happen underneath my nose. Like, I could see it all happening. It was all playing out exactly the way I thought it would. Like, I kept thinking, if he's a psychopath or if he's a sociopath, he will keep, you know, he will do this. He will try and start a relationship with someone else. He would keep, and he was just doing everything that I thought he would. And so I'll give him an inch. Sorry, what is it? You know, with the rope thing, give him a rope and they hang themselves. That's what it was like. Quite literally, I just gave him the tools. And then, of course, you know, he did in spectacular form. He did it. And that's fine, you know, because it, like I said, it proved to me that yes, I actually had been brainwashed for all those years. Yes, I was showing Stockholm syndrome, where we fall in love with our not abductors, but it comes from the case in Stockholm, hence Stockholm syndrome, where some people were kidnapped and they end up forming bonds with their kidnappers. And it is something that happens. It's a real thing. And it happens a lot, I believe, in domestic violence relationships, or relationships where, there is a theme of domestic violence, which definitely is or was the case in mine. And so, when I realized all those things, it's kind of really, really interesting to see how you can pretend to yourself one thing, a thing is one thing, but then the illusion, when you just let go of the illusion, when you stop holding someone up and putting them up on a pedestal and saying they're awesome and they're a top bloke, when you actually just let them be who they are and they show you who they really are, and you'll see them for who they are. And for me, I saw that I was married to a sociopath. So anyhow, listen, talking about greyrock here. So the 2 times that you're going to use greyrock is one at the end of the relationship, when you're figuring out your plans. Because we all know it's not that easy to just walk away. It can take months, it can take years. I've actually spoken to women where it's taken years. For me, it didn't take that long, but that's also because a window of opportunity arose. He took it, I took it, and otherwise it could have dragged on for God knows how much longer. So if you're in the situation where you do have to do greyrock, just remember, narcissists love energy, fuel. So if you're, like I said, if you're adoring them, admiring them, looking up to them, telling them they're awesome, that's all fuel. If you're crying, fighting with them, begging them not to leave when you're having arguments, that kind of thing, that's all fuel, right? If your plan is to get out of there, just withdraw yourself. Don't be around them. Don't go near them. Don't spend time with them. Don't talk to them like you used to. Don't have sex with them like you used to. Don't look up to them. Just nothing. Just pull your energy right back. And it's not going to be easy when you're in the relationship at those final stages. It isn't easy because you've got all these other narratives kind of going about, the whole, oh no, but we're actually in love and this is real and what we have is real and we have family and time and blah, blah, blah. It's not real. None of it's real. You just got caught up in something that, it's just pure manipulation. But anyhow, and the second time where you're going to use greyrock is when you're having to deal with a narcissist and you have children. So people get confused about this as well. Just because you have children with them doesn't mean you have to talk to them every time they want to talk to you. You need some really strict boundaries around this. Okay, so basically greyrock is answering questions yes, no. That's as simple. You don't need to talk any more than that. You don't need to tell them what your plans are when you have the children. You don't need to tell them about your life, what you're doing, where you're going. You don't need to tell them any of those things. They'll want to know because they like to know everything because, knowledge is power. But just because they want to know doesn't mean they actually have the right to know. So remember that when the next time they start off, I don't know, an email or a text talking about the children and then changing the subject. Okay, do not reply to them. You don't have to reply to any of this communication. Keep it no contact and greyrock only when you're dealing with the children. And if you do have an AVO in place and they do breach the AVO by contacting you, then just go and have them charged, because that's why we have the AVO. It's there for a reason, because they don't take no for an answer. They're like, self-entitled, spoilt, bratty kind of little teenagers, and they just think that they can do what they want, when they want, how they want, and there'll be no repercussions. So if you've got an AVO in place and they breach it, please just go and report it, because they need to learn that there are actually repercussions for bad behavior. And so with the kids also, look, one of the things that I've noticed, there's a tendency, as I said, they tend to try and start emails or text messages off with, oh, so how are the kids? And then, what were you doing the other night? I saw your car parked outside, blah, blah, blah. Right? That is not a text message about the children. Just because it's mentioned the children, it's not about the children. And that's the kind of thing that, like I said, if you write it down, that's part of a pattern of breach of an AVO. So I think I'm going to wrap this up. I think you kind of get the idea of what I'm saying, but you know, grey rock works as well as no contact does, only when you do it properly. Okay, you need to not react to them at all. They will always push your buttons. They will always find ways to get around any rules or boundaries that are set. Remember, they just don't like anyone saying no to them. They like to do what they want, when they want, how they want, and all the rest of it. Okay, so once you set boundaries, you've got to reinforce them. Because otherwise, what happens, for example, is, let's just say they start sending you emails or text messages, you know, and they've sent you 10, 20, 30, and then you finally reply. What that's actually just taught them is it's going to take 30 emails to get you to reply. Right? They don't actually learn. They don't learn. The only way they learn is by what they see and what they experience. So if it took 30 times, they think, great, next time I'll just start earlier. It'll only take me 30 times and she will reply. Okay, so you need to stick to your boundaries. Like I said, put no contact in place if you can. If you've got children and you need to go grey rock, keep really clear boundaries in place. There are apps that you can use when it comes to the children and contact. As I said, if you are dropping them off and if you're doing the exchanges, you don't actually have to go and see them to do an exchange. You know, you can ask someone to do the exchange for you. You can go to a public place where, you know, I don't know, McDonald's or some junk food place, whatever, you know, where you literally sit, where, you know, they don't even have to see you. You don't have to see them. They sit on one side, you sit on the other, and the child walks from one to the other. You know, because narcissists will use those times as an excuse to, oh, hang on, I just want to talk to you about something. Right? And the whole point is to get the hell away from them. They're disordered. They're not well. They're never going to be well. Okay, you've already done your time in the salt mine. You don't have to do it anymore. You're free. You finally got out. This is how you stay free. Okay, you don't let them get into your head, because as soon as they get into your head, they start working their little narc, bloody dark art magic. And before you know it, they're in your bed. And before you know it, you can't get rid of them again. Okay, so really, as I said, try go no contact if it's possible. But if you can't, do grey rock as close to no contact as you can. Okay, so figure out one way that they can communicate to you only about the children. So email only about the children, and say to them, I'll only read the emails on Mondays, once a week or once a fortnight. And you know, any changes of plans or anything else has to go through a solicitor. You know, these are the kind of things that if it's not fun for them, you know, if they're not getting fuel from the exchange of the children or whatever, they'll probably stop doing it. They don't usually care about their children. They do. They do kind of use the facade of being a good father, you know, because that helps them with the new supply. You know, they get fuel for being a good dad. You know, they also get to tell their sob stories about, oh, I don't get to see my children anymore or whatever. So there's always reasons why they will try and keep up the illusion of being a good parent. But most narcs aren't actually good parents in the relationship or after the relationship. So if you have the chance, like I said, to take away all energy from the exchange, so they don't get to see you, they don't get to talk to you, they don't get to, you know, get any information. Once you've taken all that away and they just have to deal with the children, you know, and that, or they still get fuel from the kids because they're bright, you know, they pump the kids for information, and that's something that's quite unfortunate, and there's not much you can do about it because you're not there. They do that, and that's another reason why they keep contact with their children. But anyhow, as I said, if you can just kind of pull your energy back as much as possible, you wait and see how quickly they'll drop off. They're not really interested in their children at all. All right, darlings, grey rock all the way, no contact if you can. And if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining me. Bye.